One of the things that comes to mind with this particular topic, and everybody can relate to this, is that we are in a people business. We are in a business of service. And rapport is a word that we don't hear used a lot, but at the same time, it's in everything that we do every day. Rapport is the ability to enter someone else's world, to make them feel that you understand them and that you have a common, strong bond with them, even if you don't know them. Now, I understand that there are days when you don't feel like putting that smile on. You don't feel like, going out there and being Mr. Chipper or Mrs. Chipper to everybody that you visit with, but that's what we do. And so I want to talk a little bit about the power of building rapport and how it can help us in our business. If we go into every house, we talk a little bit about, the ability to get people to like you or to feel comfortable around you. That's rapport. So rapport is power. Rapport means total responsiveness from people. When someone is totally responding to you and you're totally responding to them, you guys are in rapport. Most of you know that already. There is a connection or a spark that happens when the connection or that relationship is legitimate and it's organic. It's everyone, regardless of whether it's in sales or anything else, you want rapport with someone, but typically you have to have rapport with someone that's like you. That's when you find rapport, is when you find that common ground. Oh, you're into motorcycles. I'm into motorcycles. Oh, you're into sports. I'm into sports. It takes, finding commonality to be in rapport with somebody. Well, in our business, rapport is super important, as we've already discussed. You need to have rapport with each person that you meet with so that they trust you to do business with you. Rapport is built when there is a feeling of commonality. I'm going to repeat that a few different times throughout this entire conversation. When someone feels that they're in a feeling of commonality, there's a spark. That spark is going to ignite the ability for you to be able to join up with them, to be able to work with them, to be able to find cohesiveness. Now, here's the problem. If rapport is built by a feeling of commonality, most people are going to try and get rapport by using their words. And there's a lot of you on this call that are very articulate, very good with your words. Now, it's said that only 7% of our communication skills are words. That means if we rely solely on our words, we're leaving 93% of our skills out. This is why a lot of times in our business, some agents don't gain a rapport, that full rapport with the client, because they only use their words and nothing else. Words don't always work. They're a big part of the equation, particularly in a conversation, but they don't always work. But there is something that always works to gain rapport, and that's matching and mirroring. You guys have heard this talked about for a long, long time. Matching and mirroring came about over 35 years ago, but we've been doing it our entire lives. It was pointed out by a person named Dr. Milton Erickson, who was a genius. Dr. Erickson was a medical doctor, as well as a psychologist, a hypnotherapist, probably the best that ever lived, from what Tony Robbins says. Around that time, people around the world, would come to see him for all kinds of different issues they were looking to get fixed. And it said after one session he could handle their issue. He could fix their problem. The reason they say he was so effective is because he understood better than anyone that you have a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. And I'm not going to get too deep on you here. I'm not going to go completely scientific, but he knew that the subconscious mind was more powerful. It's the part of your mind that makes your heart beat 100 times a minute without you thinking about it. You ever sat down and said, I need to make sure my heart pumps here? No. That's your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is going to make sure that heart beats. So he knew that if he could influence your subconscious mind, he could change anything. Now, Dr. Erickson had polio, and he was confined to a wheelchair, so he spent a ton of his time just studying people, just watching people. He noticed that if people got into rapport and a relationship of responsiveness, they became like each other in a variety of different ways. He called it that they mirrored each other. That's the phrase he used. They mirrored each other. Now, this has been talked about and taught many different times and can be found in a variety of different educational venues, but the phrase is people like people who are like themselves or who are like who they would like to be. You become like people you are visiting with. You want to become like the people you're visiting with. That may scare some of you, but when with a client, you sit back and you just put out what's called biofeedback. We typically do this naturally if you're in rapport with a person. This is what some call the warm-up or finding common ground. Some of you talk about knickknacks on the wall, pictures, You see, a picture of their family. You talk, oh, you guys are at the beach. Where's that at? Okay. I've been to the beach. I was out in North Carolina. Whatever it may be, you're finding common ground, and you're trying to get in that relationship of responsiveness with that person. So when we talk about this being somewhat, sometimes done in our warm-up, but it is typically should be done throughout the entire duration of the meeting with that client. There's more to this message, but I just wanted to raise awareness today so that you can look at yourself and say, okay, when I visit with somebody, am I just going through the motions, or am I in that relationship of responsiveness with them? I'm going to go into some important information with Mrs. Jones when I'm sitting down with her. I'm going to ask her about her health. I'm going to ask her about her prescriptions. I'm going to ask her about her financial situation. And some of us may take that for granted, that that's important and that's personal. But the bottom line is that it is personal. It is important. And it's important because it's important to them. So, style is more important than substance initially. It sounds terrible, but it's true. The key part of this is the word initially. The tone of your voice, the tempo of your speech, the volume of your speech, the terminology in speech in which you use it, your vernacular, this also is going to translate over to the physical side. Your posture, gestures, facial expressions are important as well as in developing rapport. So as it talked about a moment ago, that 7% of your communication skills are words. The other 93% are more physical. Are you smiling when you knock on the door? Are you smiling when Mrs. Jones is talking to you? Are you communicating with them? Are you getting into that state of feeling of commonality, that state of responsiveness where you guys are finding that rapport? Give each person that you visit with that love. That's why you talked about on calls, practicing the golden rule, treating Mr. or Mrs. Jones as if it's your mother or your father. The importance of being able to sit down and find rapport with each and every individual, not with a preconceived notion of what the outcome is going to be or how big of a premium or how small of a premium. We're not judging a book by its cover. We want to find rapport with each person we visit with. And that's going to give you the trust. That's going to give you the ability to really do the best job you can for that person. And as I said before, we're in a business of service. So you want to make sure that you have that, and it starts with building rapport. It also starts with what Lovely talked about, building and having a strong confidence. So just wanted to touch on that real quick. If anybody would like that, I can shoot that to them.